I would look at you and say, words to describe you: professional, beautiful, elegant, um, seemingly has it all, right? And no one does, but you do. Um, you carry yourself with this je ne sais quoi that suggests I don't know if I should be here with you people, but I'm gonna hang because you guys need my elegance, but not in a bad way. But let me just upgrade the room. Let me just tell everybody how great I am. And it's a beautiful thing to witness, especially as a brown woman. I really admire what you have been able to accomplish. But I have to get the Genesis story. You grew up in a
Yeah.
political household. Tell the listeners what that looks like in your family. More about your family.
Well, first, Cari, I can't start this conversation without first just honoring the queen that you are. And I know we throw the word queen around a lot, but
Aw.
truly, to be in your presence is to be in the presence of greatness and royalty. And I mean that when I say that. Like, you elevate every room, and I feel like I match your energy when I'm in the
Hey.
room. And I mean it. And so it was an honor to even be invited to have this conversation, but more importantly, to just be in community with you. And when I think
That's
of
right.
the power of community, the power of being a Black woman in
Mhm.
2022, I'm reminded of just, exactly what you just said, my upbringing, my family. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina that you've probably never heard of. It's Wilson, North Carolina, to two parents who were and are elected leaders. My dad's a United States member of Congress. Before that, he was a judge, a Supreme Court judge. My mom served in the North Carolina state legislature. But what a lot of people don't know is that my grandfather was the first Black elected official in the state of North Carolina post
Hmm.
Reconstruction. And
I
so,
didn't know that.
yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And so when I say, politics and service runs deep, it's all I know. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's how it all began. I mean, I remember, people knocking on our doors, ringing our doorbell at 2 a.m., wanting advice, wanting support, wanting, or just needing things that our family fortunately was able in a lot of cases and times to provide. And so, the service part of what I do is not at all lip service. It's real. And it's something that is just a
Yeah.
core value for me.
So, and I know that, and we'll get into the work that you've done in the community, the thousands of lives you've changed, the many people that you've honored with your former Academy WEEN, and but when you say someone's knocking on the door in the middle of the night in this town, how small is this town that you speak of, and what kind of help were they looking for when they came knocking on the door?
So by size, we're talking, maybe in the city, 40,000, maybe in the county 70,000. But if you do the math on that, we're talking in the 80s and 90s. When I grew up, the population of Black folk, right, that looked like us was relatively small, and so we all knew each other. I mean, I couldn't go on a date or go to the store without my parents getting 5 phone calls about, oh, that she's with that boy, or she's over here. And so it's a very small town. And so what it looked like were just people, right, from neighbors to, kids that I went to school with, their parents just saying, my son was just wrongfully incarcerated. Can you help?
Mm.
Right? Did not commit,
Mm.
like things like that. And so I remember vividly still, right, getting those calls and hearing those knocks on the door. And never once did my parents say no. Not
Mm.
once. I can't recall a moment that my parents said no, but instead they went right to action to do what they could.
Growing up like that, knowing that that was service was just a part of what you all did, it was just life. It was life. Brushing teeth, washing face, yeah, and service. Uh, when did you realize that that's what you did instinctually without even being told?
Oh, that's a good question. It's funny because I know I said the word service, but as I like really sit with the word, it felt less like service, right? Because we're talking about people like us, right? It's not
Right.
them, like it's our people. And so
Correct.
instead of service, it felt more like a responsibility. Like
Mm.
there was no option, right? You can't be a person that cares in your community and see people that look like you going through a different experience than you are, and you not feel this deep sense of responsibility to do your part. And so, for me, I think I don't know the day, to be honest, Cari. It was just so inherently a part of my DNA. It's just how I showed up in life, right? It never clicked for me. It was just a part of how I operated and how I navigate through spaces. Just I do remember this is a funny story. I don't know if this is the first time. I remember in fourth grade, the song Superwoman was out. If you look it up, you'll see there was Superwoman and a song that was big R&B hit. And I remember in fourth grade there being like this tension between the boys and girls at school. And I remember, if you call my friends, Tiffany Green is one. In fourth grade, I organized a meeting on the playground of the girls in school, the Black and brown girls in school. And we had a meeting, and I said, all right, we're going to start the meeting off by singing Superwoman. I'm not your Superwoman. Oh no, oh no. And so we sang the song. And then we had
Yeah.
like I had an agenda, and we had a real meeting about what the girls were gonna
Yeah.
do to take back our power. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like
That's
that.
fourth grade. In fourth grade, I was like, can we exchange Lunchables? Like
Oh,
you up here, like, let's gather.
oh, let's gather our edges and get to it. But I do remember that random fourth grade example, but it's just what we do.
Oh man. Well, that is a beautiful thing because I can see that. Anyone who knows you was like, that sounds right. Yeah, fourth grade. I got perhaps second grade. You're just forgetting a memory. Um, so then you have this, and it's not well, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe you have this calling on your life. It's evident. You have this family that's doing remarkable things, and you are set aside. You're set apart. When you walk in the room, they know who your father is. They know who your mom is. They know who you are.
Mhm.
I have this funny story one time. I remember talking to Roland one time, and I didn't know he knew you, but everyone knows it. Roland Martin.
Yeah.
Shout out to Roland Martin, who knows everybody. Sorry, I'm talking very casually to the folks listening. And I was like, my friend, da da da. He was like, excuse me, do I know her? Yes, I do. Do you know her? And he had to give me the whole history. Like he was gathering me because I wasn't giving it its respect. And I was like, that's a beautiful thing. So here you go through high school, probably again, just set apart. People know who you are. You have it in your spirit to help others, and you get to Clark, and you decide when you graduate from high school and you enter college, what is it that's the dream job? What is it that you think you want to do?
That's easy. Wanted to be a music executive. I mean, from probably that same age, fourth, fifth grade, I knew so clearly that I wanted to work in the music business, but it felt like a real dream, like an unattainable dream. And so I literally chose Clark Atlanta University because it was Hot Atlanta, Freaknik era, So Def, right, era, where, you had to move to Atlanta if you wanted to work in the music industry and be taken seriously.
Mm,
I mean, that was a fact, right? It's kind of like LA now, Atlanta still too, but at that time we're talking 96, right? You if you wanted to make it in music, you had to move to the A. And
hmm.
so I remember telling my parents this elaborate story. I'm on a very serious law school track. I plan to enroll at Clark Atlanta University and major in political science, which I did. And I got to Atlanta, and I mean, it I hit the ground running. I mean, there was nothing and no one that would have stopped me at 18 years old in 1996 to work in the music industry but me. I knew if it didn't happen, it would be my own, like my own doing. And
I
so
love it.
yeah, so it started then as early as fourth and fifth grade, and 18 was like the window in Atlanta
Mhm.
for me to go get it.
So, what does that look like? You get to Atlanta, girl, because I live in Atlanta. And I would like to tell you that when I got there, I was focused. I lost all focus. It was too many black folks, too many fine men running around. I was like, ooh, I'm glad I am kinda an adult because I was out there. I was like, ooh, Atlanta, I love it. I love it. I love it. So here you are in college and you about to be in the music industry with your cute self.
Listen,
So was there any work done?
it was because okay, so I'm 18, young, single, ready to get in the Atlanta
Party.
get in the Atlanta street, and did it successfully, but I knew to stay, right? If I had my eye on the end goal, which was
Okay.
to land a job, right? So for sure I was in the parties. I was for sure outside dating, living my best life, doing what we do. And
Mhm.
still, I remember
I'm
around,
sorry. Can you say that again? I just dropped my phone. Say that again. We got to pick up and edit, D. Sorry.
no, outside, right? So 18 young, getting it in Atlanta, living my best dating life. And still, I knew my end goal and end game was to land a job. And so I remember the end of my first semester at Clark. I've convinced my parents that I'm on this very serious law track. And I walked physically, Cari, miles and miles and miles to the Wu-Tang store because Wu-Tang Clan, biggest group in the world at the time, had a store on Peachtree Street in Atlanta. And I walked from, let's say, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. to go give my best elevator pitch to them on why they should hire me on the spot.
Wow.
That
Wow.
happened. I mean, by foot. So I'm telling my age, right? This is 96. So no cell phone, no Uber, by
You
foot.
just like you like just 4 hours. I'm walking.
I'm walking until I get to this address on Peachtree Street. And I did, and the door was locked. They were done for the night. I broke down in my cheap outfit on the ground on the sidewalk crying hysterically because one,
Oh,
it's now evening, two, the doors are closed. So I feel like I played myself. And three, like, who do you think you are? You're from Wilson, North Carolina, out here trying to work for Wu-Tang Clan. And so in my mind, in that moment, I felt like I was basically chasing a pipe dream. And I'll never forget in that moment trying to figure out with tears in my eyes what I was going to do. Do I walk back? Like, I got to figure it out. And I stayed there and I was like, I'm just going to wait until someone comes. And I was willing to wait until the next day. And honestly, Cari, in less than 30 minutes, someone came down and opened the door to leave, opened the locked, like lights out store to leave, and I gave my best elevator pitch and I was hired on the spot.
oh my God, that story gives me chills. Oh my God, I love this story.
That
We
is
don't hear stuff like that no more.
that is
Like I listen.
I know.
We're the same age. I get the hustle. Like I'm walking, I'm doing whatever it takes to get whatever it takes.
And that's the thing.
Okay, so
Yeah, so this is before sliding in DMs, going to LinkedIn
yeah,
and
yeah.
right like
Nope.
meeting somebody to like it was hardcore hustle and finally
Yeah.
landed the role.
So who was it that opened the door, and what was the job?
The guy's name, gosh, you taking me back 24 years. I think his name was Mecca. I hope I'm getting that right. I'm sorry if you're out there and I'm getting your name wrong, but he managed
That's
them
okay.
and
Okay.
opened the door. And I remember, he was just walking out to leave for the evening. And I remember kind of dusting myself off, standing up again, right? This is after a 4-hour walk at night. And I look, and so, I
He's
basically,
like
and I basically said,
he's
hey,
like just
yeah, disheveled. And I said, I'm in Atlanta for college. I want an opportunity to work for you. I'm willing to do it for free as an unpaid intern. I just want a shot to prove to you why I should work for Wu Tang Clan. And he said, tell me more about yourself. Do you have a resume? No, I don't. I don't have a resume. I have no job experience other than working for Foot Locker in high school. But I can promise you, no one is going to work harder than me. And he said, I'll do
mhm.
one better and hired me on the spot with pay. And so
Mm.
that I worked for there for over a year and literally became kind of like the promotion assistant and really found my way from that first opportunity.
Now, first and foremost, we're on our way. So we get the job. We're going to be a music executive. It only makes sense. The first job I go after, I get. And so, how quickly did you learn? Because one thing I've noticed that some people's emotional IQ, I hire people a lot and they don't have the emotional IQ to live in the world they think they want to live in. They
Mhm.
don't read the room. They don't understand how there is a persistence
Yeah.
waiting outside for 6 hours high. And then there is a need to know to pull back, right? Like you're going too quick, you're going too quick. And I used to get scolded all the time for that. Like when I would want to follow reporters around, like local news reporters here now, literally here in LA that are still working. I used to be like, can I follow you around? They'd be like, chill out, little girl. But I was just so excited.
Mhm.
What did you learn right away in this position that you obviously didn't necessarily have experience for, but he liked your hustle?
I'll say I learned three things. The first is to never be too big for the small jobs.
Mm.
Like I would literally in my Toyota Camry drive to
Hmm.
Atlanta Hartsfield Airport and pick up ODB and Method Man. I mean, literally, and they would pile into my Toyota Camry, and I would drive them wherever they needed to go. Right, things like that.
That's hilariously beautiful and amazing.
My dad still has that car, by the way. No one knows it.
I
I'm giving you all the tea today. My dad still has that car, by the way. But that's what I would do in my navy blue Toyota Camry. Do airport pickups, coffee runs. I mean, whatever needed to be done that was, of course, within scope of the role, I would do. Right, and
yeah,
so there was that. Never be too big for the small jobs.
yeah,
Second thing I learned was probably to just it only takes one yes, but
that's
you
it.
gotta go get it, right? And so often we're so sad and devastated by the no's, but it just takes one.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
last thing I'll say that I learned is that, and this is unpopular opinion, but you have to
Okay.
listen more than you speak when you're starting out, right? I was so aware that I didn't know what I was doing, that I had to be a sponge, like you said. Like I literally had to immerse myself in the environment and learn the landscape before I could contribute in a way that was unique.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
sponge and
Hmm.
the listening more than I spoke, again, unpopular opinion, right? But not in a way that you shrink, but in a way that you're just observant enough to know, all right, here's my opening and here's how I add value.
Okay, first of all, that is a word even to this day, even in the beginning, even to this day. Like, even every position you take, every new role I get, every new show I do, I should be listening to what the hell's going on, even though I know. It never, that to me, that last bit of advice never changes. Okay, so I don't want to jump. I'm taking forever. I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm jumping ahead. So you get this gig. You graduate from Clark Atlanta, and when you graduate, what is, because there are so many people, especially with my foundation. These girls are like, I gotta have a job as soon as I graduate. I gotta make money. I gotta, like, no one wants to enjoy the ride and realize that you're not gonna be, myself included, when I graduated. You're not gonna make this money. You're not gonna have this nice title right away.
Yeah.
Get the experience, get the effing experience. So you graduate from Clark, and what are we doing? Are we managing Michael Jackson yet? What are we doing? What
I
are we
worked
doing?
with Mike Tyson at the time, heavyweight champion of the world, in a
How'd
pretty.
you get that gig? How'd you get that gig?
There were a few people in my life at the time. Shawnee Jackson is one, and you may know Shawnee, but Shawnee
Yeah.
she managed Mike at the time, and they hired me just as an assistant, kind of office manager. She and Robin, so Shawnee and Robin hired me at the time, and I worked for them for about a year for Mike Tyson. And graduation came for Clark, and I remember, and this goes back to fear and confidence. Every insecurity that I had in that moment. And at this point, I had 4 years of working in some sort of entertainment space, crept in still. And it said, there's no way you're going to do this for real right after graduation. There's no way you're going to have a real career with longevity in this space. And you need to get focused and get serious. This is what I'm telling myself and my parents at the time, and go to law school. And so instead of continuing my job and my career in music and entertainment, I quit and I went to law school for a year.
Hmm.
So that's what happened
Now,
at
do
graduation.
you know what do you know what incredible confidence you have to walk away from something that you love and adore and not worry about what people say? Now, if it would have been at this time of social media, would you have felt like you had to prove yourself? Because I feel like then everybody didn't have to, you didn't have to announce what the hell you were doing. You
Not
don't
yet.
have to.
I deal with that now. At the time, you're a college student still, right? So
Okay,
I
okay.
think
So
it's expected at graduation, you may make a sudden pivot or move. So at that time with social media, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal because I was so much more interested in pleasing my parents and wanting to make them proud
okay.
at that
And being
stage.
an attorney, yeah, and at that stage, going to law school would do that.
Oh, they were the happiest they've ever been. I mean,
And so
it was the law school they attended and the college where they met, so they were happy.
so you go to law school.
Yep.
Is it what you want?
From day one, Cari, I knew it was a mistake. I broke out. My face was covered in bumps. My hair started thinning and falling out. And I knew the first day I had made a mistake. But it wasn't until 9/11, when the Twin Towers were hit that year, while I was sitting in class, that I said, all right, I got to live. And I walked away after that
Mm.
year. But 9/11 actually happened while I was sitting in law school in a contracts class, and we watched the second tower get hit. For true story, we watched the second tower get hit on TV, and I made up my mind that day that I was going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And do what?
Go to New York and follow my dreams. That was it.
I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm already nervous. I know the end result, but I'm nervous.
Me
This
too.
is a real story. I'm going through I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Okay, so we're quitting. So we got to make the call. I'm nervous. So we call our parents and what do we say? I'm nervous. I already know what happens. I mean, you seem to work out. You seem to get your stuff together. But I'm nervous. So we call dad. We call the congressman. Dad,
No,
I'm out.
I don't. I lied. I said, Mom, Dad, I have a clerkship with a judge in New York. I'm going to go up to New York for the summer, sleep at Sabrina's house on her couch, and work for this judge for the summer. And I'll be back for my second year of law school.
Okay. So
Knowing,
then,
so I went to New York. I went to Sabrina's house in Brooklyn, Crown Heights to be exact. Slept on her couch, and she said,
uh-huh.
"Girl, what are you gonna do?" And she worked for Court TV at the time as a producer, like a production assistant. She was just
Uh-huh.
2 months ahead of me, and I thought to myself, "Surely I'm gonna find the job." Right? I have a college degree. I have 1 year of law school. I know a couple people now, and it took 6 months for me to finally land my first job, and my parents were done. They cut me off financially. They said I made the biggest mistake of my life. Everyone in law
Oof.
school, including the dean, blowing up, the phones, just trying to find me and locate me. True story. And I was up in New York trying to figure it out.
I chills. I love this story. We need a Lifetime movie. Okay, so then they're just so disappointed. I understand the weight of disappointment from people you care deeply about. And I understand the pressure of feeling like you need to succeed because you've always been ahead of the game your entire life. First in class when you're in high school, class president, home, all the things, all the titles you get that say this kid is going to do something. This kid is going to be special. So then by the way, there is nothing more important than passion and knowing what you've been called to do.
Fact.
So I say that hands down. So I'm nervous because you got to tell your parents, but I already know you obviously kicking ass now. So then you get your first job, you call them up, you're like, yo, this is what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
they say,
Uh, so we talked to the dean of the law school, and they agreed for you to spend a year, take a year off. And if it doesn't work out for you, which we don't expect that it will that soon, you're able to return back to law school. And it was like a kick in the stomach. Like, they don't even believe in me. Like, what am I doing? Right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think for me, it started in New York with a company called the Gersh Agency, an agency that represents a lot of big actors and actresses and talent. That was an unpaid internship. I'll tell the story fast. There was an older agent there who just saw me like busting my butt for free. I was the first person there, last person to leave every night. You know the story, every person's grind. And one day he said, "Hey, I heard about a role at HBO that you'd be great for. Would you consider taking on the role?" And I was like, "I'll interview for it." 4 interviews later, I land a role at HBO Sports Boxing because, of course,
Nice.
I have boxing experience on my resume because of Mike Tyson. And so
Yes. Because I work with Mike. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So HBO Boxing, I'm reporting to the president of the group, and my first day in role, he was let go. He was no longer with the company, and so then I was just
Oh, Lord Jesus.
floundering around HBO Sports trying to figure it out. And finally, I landed with Cari Davis, who to this day is a friend and mentor. And Cari Davis was the president soon after of HBO Sports. He's now, I think, at Howard University running their sports program. But Cari was the one that really guided and mentored me. until I was able to land the next role, which ended up being with Def Jam Enterprises and Russell Simmons' organization in music, where I spent 7 years. And so that was kind of like the entry, Cari. But honestly, I can't tell you how many nights and mornings I cried. I heard the word.
Mm-hmm.
I probably heard no exaggeration, 200 times, 300 times before I even got the Gersh agency. Yes, for an unpaid internship.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because everyone, and then it's interesting because everyone's not entitled. Everyone thinks they are. I don't know. You and I are of that same school. Like I said, we grew up the same way in terms of like nothing is given, everything is earned.
Yep.
Nothing. I can't easily go and knock on your door because LinkedIn helped me out. Everything is so much more convenient nowadays. And while that's great, it still takes away from that work ethic. Like I'm still hustling no matter what. And the beauty of your career, as I look and I'm going down my research, shout out to Peyton Wilson, little young brown girl on the team,
Yes,
and she's doing her hard work. Good for her. But I'm looking at all the research, and as you're telling me this, I know I'm like, okay, this is the HBO story. Okay, with the president. Okay, I got it. But I noticed how you've been able to vacillate, and not even in a bad way, but it's very few people who have a skill set that works in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
You have been able to go from sports, from Mike Tyson, to music, to tech, to obviously politics.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've lived in every world at a high level functioning.
Mm-hmm.
What is the skill set that you have that allows you to go from working with Russell Simmons for however many years, and I get now because he was, a lot of these people are politically connected, but then, you know, you obviously have your parents' background where they were, you know, obviously politicians, still are. How did you get to Obama? How did you become the National Youth Vote Director for the Obama administration, his campaign in 2011 and 2012, and live in that world? Where'd that come from? Were you still at Russell Simmons' place, living and chilling and working with him? Not his place per se,
Yes.
because he's canceled, but you know what I
I
mean.
know the office of.
If you have something to say, blink. But if you don't, we'll move on. I meant like, how are you working with Russ? And I know Russ, so I say that in jest. I say that in
I
jest.
know. I'll tell you exactly how it happened. I'm in my office one day on 7th Avenue, and I got the call from upstairs. We had 2 floors. I'm on the 42nd floor. The 43rd floor called and said, "Hey, you know, we can't make it to this event tonight for a politician in the city. Can you go?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So I go to this event. I mean, not prepared, jeans, sneakers, whatever. And I show up, and I'm introduced that night to a freshman senator from Illinois who was open
Mm.
for the evening that no one was talking to. So we're in this car dealership, you know, fundraiser type of political event. I'm walked over to this guy that again no one is talking to, and it's Barack Obama. And we were introduced in that moment. We had a 5-minute conversation about hope and change, and you know the direction of our country and needing the entertainment industry more involved in driving change. And I said, "All right, well, here's my card. Let's definitely talk and figure out, you know, ways to support youth engagement for the upcoming election." Had no idea that he was even interested in running for office in that moment. 5-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, a few months went by and I got a call from a gentleman named Rick Wade, who ended up working for President Obama's campaign. And he said, "Hey, we're really trying to get young people activated. You know, we know that you know a lot of people, you work in the music space. Could you help us?" And the first person, and I said, yes. I volunteered, again, unpaid. Now I have this fancy job in music, still volunteered unpaid for Barack Obama's campaign. Again, this is when no one thought he could win. I mean, this is like month 1, month 2 of his campaign, and no one was really into it. Or I shouldn't say that. No one yet had really.
No, but you didn't. It didn't pop yet. I know what you're talking about. Then one day you're like, "Oh, this is possible." I get what you're saying.
I remember picking up my phone one day. You could call them and ask them, and I called Randy and Maverick. And I said, "Hey, there's this guy that I'm volunteering for named Barack Obama. He's a freshman senator from from Illinois. He's really a real serious contender, but we have to get behind him. And Ohio is a key battleground state, as you know. Would you consider
Hmm.
participating in a rally in Akron or Cleveland just to get
Yeah.
young people engaged? And they said yes.
Shout out to Maverick Carter and Ernie Ramos, aka Randy. Go
Out to
ahead.
the
It was Ernie, right? Right? It was Ernie. Or okay, I want to be
Ernie
sure.
pulled up. Randy pulled up in a pickup truck with LeBron.
Uh huh.
Pulled
Uh
to
huh.
the
Uh huh.
town center in Cleveland for this rally that we were hosting. And there were just a couple hundred people there. And they were the first to say yes to me when I was volunteering unpaid for, at the time, Senator Barack Obama. And so, long story short, he won the election. The night before the election, we were all in North Carolina. He said, we're going to call you if this happens. And sure enough, I ended up getting the call once he was elected as the first Black president of the United States. And so the lesson here for me is, one, your relationships really matter. Just be good to people. The second is, again, never to be too big for the small jobs. I volunteered for free because I just believed that this senator from Illinois could make it. And and
I need everybody to take a. I need to take a moment because I'm getting so full off this story.
it's true.
You literally are at the foundation of our first Black president. You are working like foundational steps for our very first Black president, because there will be more. And you just talked to this freshman senator nobody was chatting with, and you're like, what up, what up, what up, what up? Like, and he saw it and he knew it and he was impressed and he knew you had it. Like, does that not give you
And it
chills?
was genuine. I didn't want,
Oh yeah, he's a
and nor did I expect anything in return. If I didn't get the call, I was okay with that.
you know why? Go back to this beginning of this conversation if y'all listening. She had services in her blood. That's all she knew. And that's when you really get the blessings, because it's genuine, it's authentic. Like, you've been doing that. And it wasn't anything in return. When they knocked on your parents' doors at 1:30 in the morning, what y'all need? We go help. We mobilize.
Yeah.
You need help? Or mobilize. There's such a beautiful group of women and men that we know. Like, we obviously run in the same worlds, but there are so many of us who have so many wonderful connections that can really change the world.
Yes.
And when I hear you tell the story and you talk about Maverick and Ernie and Randy, rather, I love this because you see how it all comes full circle, and their success and what they've been able to achieve, and your success and what you've been able to achieve. And I'm just so blown away because it's all in the family. It's all in the
All in the
family.
family. And Cari, it's not transactional. These are real
At all.
relationships, right? These are not contacts. It's not networking, relationships, right? Like, I know if I ever needed to call you, Cari, I could.
Of
And,
course.
and same
Yes.
here, and with zero expectation of anything in return. Same thing with Randy, and like, they didn't want anything back. They were just being good people who believed in a vision. And so I think, now we've, as a society, have become so focused on like networking, deal making, and figuring it out. And it's like, no, just be good people who contribute to the world and to this universe. And I promise you it's going to come back tenfold.
Okay, crazy story. I have so much to say. We ain't got 2 hours. This would be a 2 hour podcast. We're gonna do part two later when you said we could, but we'll.
Yeah.
So the let's go to naked after dark. I don't know what we'll call that. You then in between all of the things, because we can't just do one thing. And I will say this. You mention these things like they're not a big deal, but I hope you understand that you do sit back, because I feel like I do that too. I accomplish things and it's just check, 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 check,
Next.
check, 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 next check, next check, next check. Okay, I did that. That's great. Yeah, no, check, check, check. I rarely just relish in what has been accomplished or what is happening or
Never.
where I've come from. And that's unfortunate, right? That's the part I don't like. So that's why I'm here to praise you, because this is a beautiful, I literally have chills. This is a beautiful story. Now, in between of being great, you create this wonderful academy. 2007, I believe, is when you created WEEN. I know, right? It's a little shout out to WEEN. Let me pour a little out for the homies because I'm drinking rosé. You at work? I don't know what you're
We're
doing.
not pink or wings today. You know.
Okay, good. Okay, so tell everyone about WEEN. In the process of changing the world, you decide what.
So once I finally broke into the music industry in New York, I looked around and I said, it should not have been this hard. Like, why was it this hard to work for free? And so, by the way, and so that's literally how WEEN began, which stands for the Women in Entertainment Empowerment Network. And it was just me and three friends in my one bedroom apartment in New York, saying to ourselves, now that we're in, right, we all worked in music, we all had found our space in music and TV. And we said, let's just make it a little bit easier for the next generation. And so we started this organization, a nonprofit focused on access and educating the next generation of young women leaders. And keep in mind, I was not by title a boss yet, right? Like I'm still in a cubicle at the time, not making a lot of money, but I felt again this sense of great responsibility to make the
Yeah.
path a little bit straighter and a little bit easier for the next generation. So 86,000 women went through the program. There's a placement rate in the entertainment industry of over 80%. Gia Peppers and Farrah Diaz and you name it. Courtney Whitaker. I mean, there's so many amazing women who we know now
Yeah.
as our peers, by the way, who started who
Yeah.
started in that program. And so I'm really, really proud.
You started to have the WEEN Awards and they grew into something very special and you honored so many people. I'm grateful to be one of them. But the year that I went and I was honored, I was really blown away at the level of Black excellence that was there. And I was just like, Felicia's on her shit. Like this is again the relationships. It's not networking, it's relationships, truly caring about people. I cannot emphasize that enough. Gosh, because you're so right. Because you meet people in passing and depending on your mood or your day, you never know what that means. But remember, that might be a relationship you want to foster. And however you want to foster it. It doesn't have to be, girl, let me call you every day, or guy, let me reach out to you. And it's just, if it, the world's work. Hey, Cari, I'm working on something. I think you'd be great for it. Hey, Valeisha, someone asked me, it's a real life story. Marianne Williamson, who ran for president, right? Which was a different, in 2020, right? Not for say what you want, but it was bold of her to even do it as a woman. It was a very full, crowded field,
Mhm.
whatever. And so I bumped into. I read all her books before she even ran. I read all her books, and I thought that there was things there about her that made sense, but things that just didn't make sense for obvious reasons. And so I bumped into her on a plane. This is a true story. And she's talking to me about different people. And I was like, you should meet my friend Valeisha. I said that just in passing. I mentioned you. I mentioned Latasha Brown. I mentioned um who else did I oh, my friend Erin, who works with, it's just a bunch of women that I thought she could talk to just in life as she was seeking advice about what's next. And it's true relationships, because that's how I see you. And you live in this world, and I'll text you about that after
Yes.
this. And you live in this world, and I watch you just change everything, and it's just excellence upon excellence upon excellence. So then I bump into you at a dinner or a luncheon, maybe the Essence. Was it the Essence Black Women in
It
Hollywood?
might have been Netflix event. I don't know.
You were
That's
contemplating,
Black women. Yes, it was.
but you were contemplating a job change.
Yes.
So at the moment, I don't think you were at Google yet, but you had been offered or you had been entertaining a high profile job in sports.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do remember that. Woo!
Can we talk about that and how we ended up at Google? And if my timeline is off, correct
It
me.
might be a little off. No, it is a little off, but
Okay.
the meat is right, right? The meat is there, and it's crazy because I remember I've received a few really big CEO level offers now from big brands. One in
Yeah.
sports that you mentioned, and I've turned them down or not continued the conversation because my piece means so much more to me now than any check or title that I've ever had. And I fought so hard in life to be in a space now where I can say no, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about all the no's
Yeah.
I've heard in my life. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
freedom and the agency of choice, and it feels so good, right? And it's not that I don't need the money. I do. I'm not rich. I can't stop working today.
Same. I need all my bars. I need all my bread in baskets. Go ahead.
And revenue streams, but not at the expense of my peace. And so let me get my red cup too. And so
Yeah, girl, please, because yeah, we won't put this on. They won't. They never have me sipping. This little part we use it is just this little part. Yeah, go on.
But the fact that we both have breakups is hilarious. That was unplanned.
it's called it's called living this life that we live.
Yeah, what day is it? I'm just kidding.
Okay, so you've turned down a lot of positions, which I know because you know what it would
What it would
require.
require, what it would do. I ask questions now in interviews like, what level is the most senior ranking Black person in your organization? You literally
Mm.
feel the energy change and they like, oh, let us get back to you on that. I mean, I ask now, right? And I ask like those difficult questions that I didn't have the confidence to ask before because I just wanted it so bad. And so when you can remove
Yeah.
the expectations, when you can remove back to your earlier point, Cari, about like what people would think or say, like, you know, the role I have now is amazing. I feel happy. I feel poured into. I feel valued. And I've had roles that are way bigger in title, right? Would blow y'all's minds. Like if I took that thing. And as I've said no, because again, I'm in a space in my life in my 40s now where I refuse to live my life unhappy. I don't want to get up every day and go to a job that I don't enjoy. I don't want to take a check when I know I have people breathing down my neck that don't respect and value me. And so I feel so blessed and right. And I know I earned it, right? I know
Right.
now I've earned the right to say no unapologetically.
You are saying the right things, but you also believe
Oh
them.
yeah, with
People can't people can't understand why you walk away from what seems to be the great for something that doesn't have that big platform or big title. And it's exactly what it is. You don't respect me. You don't value me. Why sit here and pretend like I'm valued or respected?
let's not
Who wants
let's
that?
not play games, right? Like in life, in love, like people will
In love
in
and in life.
like people will guilt you into a yes. People will shame you into a yes, or they'll just make you feel like you should have some sense of loyalty and gratitude for even having the opportunity to work with them or be with them. And it's
Mhm.
actually a
Mm.
no with an exclamation point. It's a hard no.
Hard no.
Okay. It's a hard no now. And without with confidence, but not arrogance. It's just I know my boundaries
No thanks.
now. Period.
I That is a beautiful place to be. I think where I'm at is I agree with you 100% cosign. You've seen me do it, cosign.
Yes.
I think that what I don't like doing or what I don't feel like doing is explaining that to anybody. I almost feel like if you don't get it, you don't get it and you won't get it till it's
Yeah.
time. It's one of these things that you can't explain to people. Like, well, what happened? Well, I don't want to explain it. You won't get it until you get there.
It's
And by the way, getting to that
yeah.
point is a blessing.
Ooh, and it takes work.
It's a blessing to say, no, thank you. I'm going to choose me and do something else. Like that is a blessing. People don't even have that luxury because they're not that wanted, desired, or
Up,
qualified.
period.
And I still like it. Okay, so in 2016, you're at Google, global head of women and Black community
Well,
engagement.
end it as global
You
and
organize,
all inclusion for the whole brand.
say all inclusion for the whole brand. Okay, so tell me, give me the exact title at Google. What was it?
Global head of inclusion.
So you take this gig, and I think I remember talking to you being like, "Do you have to move up north as in Northern California? Did you have to? What was your commute
No, it
like?"
started in New York, and then they allowed me to transfer to the LA office about 3 years in. I was there for almost 5 years. New
Okay,
York and LA,
and when
but with teams across Asia, APAC, EMEA, out in London, parts of Africa, in Latin America, and in the US. So I had a huge global team across the world, but I was based in the final years in LA.
what were you able to implement while you were there that you were like, "This is the shit. I'm accomplished. I'm accomplished something that's why I came here to do
There were
this."
a lot of things, but one of the things that I'm most proud of was the State of Black Women Summit. For the first time ever, I convened all Black women employees from across the globe in one room.
Oh,
First time ever. And so we're talking at the time, I think it was around 1,500 women, again, all Black women employees in one room who had never met or even heard of each other before. And we brought in our girl, Elaine Welteroth, and we brought in a lot of great speakers and just made it amazing. And what I'm most proud of is not only did I co-found it with a few other women, but it's still there. So they're actually going to have a big event at Essence in a couple weeks. And so it's still alive and breathing. But there were a lot of things. We did, Latinas at Google. We did a lot of programs that came out of it. But I'm most proud that that was a program that I was able to do for women that looked like me in a space where we felt at times very alone and like we weren't connected.
Hmm. Hmm. That's beautiful. Look, and by the way, that's when did you implement that program?
Woo, that was probably 2018.
And by the way, 18 years too late. Whenever the hell Google started, just but it's beautiful. And it took you to come in and do it. Like you're still like, it's still too late, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? Which is a beautiful thing.
Somebody has
These first ever Black moments, I really have a hard time celebrating like the first
it.
Black president of the Washington Commanders. I can't celebrate that in 2020. I can't celebrate that in
So
2021.
glad.
I'm just like, are we still doing
Yeah, no more first. Like let's get.
it?
It's just the way
This
it's
is
normal.
It's just what it is. So then you have this wonderful job that you have now. And the thing about you that I've noticed, even when you make your announcements, they're always done with this humility in class and it's not overstated. It's just like, oh, by the way, here you go.
The mission
Just
continues.
take a
That's
look.
my thing. The mission
Okay.
continues.
The Michigan, let me just drop that here. Just you guys go ahead and just do what you want with it. And I love that. And I actually have learned from you from that. It's like it doesn't always need to be announced. So, oh yeah, but by the way, like that's so gangster. You don't understand like you get a dope ass job and you announce it beforehand and you're like, what about I announce it a month in? Hey guys, I've been busy,
Been
but
a little busy.
here you go.
That's on purpose, by the way.
So you're I oh absolutely, it's on purpose and it's brilliant. So tell everyone this new position that you have won. You actually graced them with your presence in 2020.
Yeah.
You said, "Okay, I'm gonna let y'all have
So
me."
I serve now as the co-president of the Recording Academy, which is the home of the Grammy Awards. I'm the first Black woman to serve in the role as co-president. I work for an amazing boss. His name's Harvey Mason Jr., who's the CEO and the co-president, Panos A. Panay. And it's a vibe, like a real vibe. The Grammys have been around for 65 years, and I feel like the energy and the new legs of the right person at the right time who's just like really driving big major change. The things like an inclusion rider we developed for the first time ever in our 64-year history and implemented it for the Grammy Awards this year. So if you saw the show, you saw things like the most inclusive Grammy Awards you've ever seen. You saw Nas performing, and you saw women on stage, and you saw a stage ramp for creators with disabilities on display. I mean, all of that boiled down to an inclusion rider that I helped develop and introduce for the first time ever, and just lots of things like that. And so I'm in a good space right now, and back to music, right? My first love. And so it
Yeah,
feels good. And it feels good to be in a president role because I've always been in the diversity space and the youth engagement space.
sure.
So now I'm overseeing a big part of the organization. So I'm growing and learning and expanding a lot in the process too.
Well, I this year's Grammys. Well, first of all, I'm always IG stalking, and again, like I said, with your elegance, I'm like she's stunning because she on everybody right now, everywhere with the new outfits and stuff, and cute and fine. My thing is, I love to see us winning, but be fine as all get out while winning, and making it just look so effortless. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being just beautiful and smart. Like you can do all of that. And I'm still doing my job. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to not be all of the things.
So we are in a lot of fabulous spaces, but I must say, I was able to be on the cover of Billboard magazine this year. I mean, cover.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
remember, and shout out
Yes.
to Andy Cox, who leads comms for the Academy. And I remember the day of the shoot. I mean, big budget, it's all the things, right? And I'm on the cover of the
Uh-huh,
board
uh-huh.
with Harvey and Panos on my side by side, and I'm the only woman, and I'm in the moment deciding like I should just wear a suit, I should just wear pants,
Uh-uh.
and
Uh-uh.
just be easy and not do too much. And I remember Andy Cox and my mom, who you have to meet one day because she's the most fabulous person you've ever met, said, "Girl, if you don't put on that Tom Ford dress and that Versace belt and give them what they want to see and what makes you feel good and like a boss." And I did it. And I'm so glad I did, because the world will have you shrink, right? The world will have you reduce who you are and not show up in all of our femininity and all of our fabulousness, and put on the heels, put on the dress, put on the extra 30-inch hair if that's what makes you feel good. And so,
Hey.
right? Thank you. And so I'm still working through that, because for sure
It's hard. It's
I hear
hard.
the comments, right? Like, and I'm not talking
It's
social
hard.
media comments. I hear the actual comments of people saying, "Oh, she's doing too much," or and it's just
Yeah.
like, no, actually, I'm gonna do more. I'm gonna give you more of what
Yeah.
you want, because
I'm not doing enough,
I
actually.
that I got, okay. And so, and especially when you're good at what you do, right? So,
I I've seen that in you. I've seen you give less because you don't want, not even because I think you don't want. I just think that you feel like it's appropriate. Like, if you grew up feeling like what has to be appropriate, you live in appropriate land. I don't know what's appropriate. So, and that's why I get so much pushback, because I'm like, no, I'm be cute. I don't know what to tell you. I'm fine. I'm about to be out of
uh,
here. I
I'm
see you then. Thank you. And then look, let me tell you something. I see you now. I'm like, oh, she fine. And I'm here and I'm celebrating it. Know that you have a group of women who are celebrating you every time they see you beautiful. Here you are, a mother, wife. You have all these things going on. And you're like, I'm still celebrating me in my 40s, and I'm bad. And I'm better than you women in your 20s and 30s, if I got to be
say it
honest.
again.
And like I'm better than the 20s and the 30s because I got my own bread. I ain't tripping off of none of y'all, and I'm super confident. And I do what I do. That's it. I do what I do. I ain't trying to figure it out. I do it. So I celebrate all of your beauty. The most extra you want to be, the sexy you want to be, all of that. I'm here for all of that. And I do understand it comes with critiques, and you also have to be aware of the room and the
Yeah.
positioning. But I love that you at the last minute decided for
Yes.
documentation
Yes.
purposes, Billboard
Yes.
magazine
I
purposes,
want my
cover.
great great grandkids to say, "Dang, she really lived out loud." Period. She lived her life out loud and boldly and authentically, and so that's what I pray will be the legacy that I leave.